Okay, so here is my second ever video tutorial for Stealth. And the goal of this tutorial is to introduce novice scripters to C Sharp and my .NET DLL and new .NET wrapper for the DLL for Stealth. So this is for real beginners. We're going to be working from the ground up. We're going to be creating a new project, a new development environment, new development directory anyway folder, and building an application. And I'll be explaining as much as I can. I'll try to be as brisk as I can because writing any app takes some time, and I don't want to be spending too much time coding in front of your face. But hopefully this helps anybody just starting out. So let's dive right in. So the first thing you want to do, well, that I do anyway, is make a development folder. You can name it development or stealth development or whatever you want. And the next thing I do is make a shared folder for any shared libraries, DLLs, wrappers, whatever you want. So, things that you're not going to be editing that you might be downloading updates from, such as these two files here. So let's go ahead and download these two files, the script.net DLL and the wrapper file. Save link as. Let's go to desktop, our stealth development folder. Oh, that's actually misnamed. Let's rename that. Shared. Freudian, huh? Okay, let's save that. And then let's save the wrapper into the shared folder, and there they are. Beautiful. So now that we have that, let's get into Visual Studio. We're going to make a project, and just tried making this video before, and I died right in the middle of Britain, so that was interesting. So anyway, let's create a new project. Oh, it's still saved there. Okay, we're going to name the project O-Rune for or each rune. Make it a console application, and we're going to save it in our development folder. Select folder, and let's create. And for those of you who haven't really used this too much, our project will be here, our project file, and then our project all in the development, nice and neat. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is add a reference to the script.net DLL. You do that by going to References, Add Reference, go to Browse on this left-hand side, hit Browse here, and then we're going to go to our desktop, Stealth Development, and we're going to go into that shared folder, and we're going to select the DLL, make sure it's checked, beautiful, hit OK. Now we have a reference to the script.net DLL, perfect. And then what we can do is make sure that we include the namespace, that we're using the namespace for script.net. Now, if you want to take a look at the namespace, just double-click the DLL, open up the script.net. Here's the script.net namespace. All of these are just these are handlers for events. You can look up the syntax. I have a little post on ScriptUO regarding this. And these are the different types that we have, specialty types and classes for different functions, like gum buttons, and those are the properties, the element, the page ID, pressed ID, and all that stuff. And then if you want to look at the static class stealth, that's where all the meat of the functions are. All the script underscore functions. This is the standard stealth structure for writing scripts. So most of these, 99% of these, are identical to the functions in Delphi, in the Delphi wrapper or the managed DLL. Okay, I mean the unmanaged DLL, script.dll that comes with the package. Okay, so and you can go in there and look at all these functions, see what you have access to. And then what we also want to do is include the wrapper. Now the wrapper, I don't know if it's going to be available at the time that you see this video. It should be shortly thereafter. The wrapper's not really complete. It's really beta-y right now. But the goal is, oh, actually, before I ramble on here, when you add the wrapper file, if you just double-click it or hit Add, it'll add a copy of the file out of the shared folder into the project. Now, if you're like me and you don't want to manually copy that file every time you update it, what you want to do is drop this down and hit Add as Link. So when you add it as a link, it's just a link to that singular file. It's just a link to this file here. So then, you know, if a new update comes out, when I start releasing updates, you can just go to the Bitbucket download page, just download the new file, overwrite it in the shared folder, and load up your project, and then it will automatically have the latest version without you having to copy it back into your project. Okay, cool. So anyway, so this is the wrapper. Now the goal of the wrapper is to pretty much to .NETify or C#ify the stealth API. Instead of using all these functions, just stealth dot function, the script underscore function for everything. It's kind of ugly and cumbersome, and not really conducive to programming in C#. The wrapper will handle a lot of things for you and make it all pretty. And here's the wrapper here, and I'll show you some of the things that we're working on. That pretty much I'm working on, and now I recently added Chrome into the project, and I incorporated some of Chrome's GUM functions, and now Chrome's is going to be in charge of the GUM class and the context menu class. I have the hierarchies pretty cool here. So everything is derived from these two, from base type. Base thing is derived from base type, and then everything here is derived as a base thing. Base type is pretty simple. It's just a type. It just handles the variable, the property, the type. And because everything in UO, as you should know already, has a type. And if you need me to demonstrate that, just choose anything here, and you'll see the type here, which is a 2-byte, 15 byte 1, 39 byte 2 is a 2-byte type identifier. Then you have the unique identifier, which is for every item. So every item has a type. Every item has an ID, etc. So base type is the type. Base thing, I didn't want to call it base object. I didn't want to call it base item. Thing was the best naming I could come up with, because every thing in UO has an ID, has a type, and has a coordinate. That includes GUMPs. That includes everything that happens in UO. I might be missing something that doesn't, but so far I haven't hit it yet. So, and we derive everything off of this base thing type that has coordinates, the ID, and type, and it also inherits the interface IEquatable, which allows it to allows me to override the equals and not equals operators. So we can compare anything that derives off of base thing. So, and I'll explain why that's kind of cool in a second. So everything here derives off of those classes. So an item derives off base thing, container derives off of item, creature derives off of item, NPC derives off of creature, and self is just a static class that for the player itself. You don't derive off of anything. So you have your own ID, you have your mana, HP, your own coordinates, your backpack, which is a container. So this backpack will return a container type. Oh, well, I should. Well, last container is actually what's currently open on the screen, so that's not being returned right yet. But anyway, again, this is a work in progress. But also it has member functions for actions as well. So to cast a spell, self.cast, self.use skill, self.use primary, use secondary, and all that. Okay, so you can take a look. You'll see how fluid it goes afterwards. But and then the main item has click an item, the use function, a bunch of Boolean flags if it exists. Is it an NPC? Is it a container, etc. Then it has distance, tooltip function, color, quantity, name. Okay, just basic stuff that an item would include. Okay, so that's just a brief introduction, and then GUM class we'll get into when we actually start using it. But as of right now, let's just dive right in and let's build our first quick script. At first I'm just going to create a quick hello world, and I want to demonstrate exactly how cool script.dll is. Same as script.dll and script.net DLL. There are two ways to run a script. So let's create a quick script that does nothing. Let's just does a hello world. We'll do client print hello world. A client print prints a local string, so not to the server, just to the client, just locally prints a string here. Nobody else can see it, only you can see it, okay? Um, so we'll create this, and let's build it and see what happens, okay? Oh, we have to use this namespace. We're not using the script API here. This is just the standard stealth API, standard stealth function that's included in the script.net namespace. But we're going to start using script API, so we have to include that namespace as well. Okay. But let's go ahead and build this. Now there's two ways to run this program. It builds successful. There's two ways to build this program. The first way is to load it up. Go to desktop, stealth, orun, bin, debug, and then here's the application. Is to load it and hit play. Okay? Hello world is right down here. See that? Now, you don't need to do that. Stealth is a static class with a static constructor. So when the very first time you use anything in the static class, the constructor is called, and all the magic happens in the DLL, so it automatically hooks into stealth and runs. So if we just hit play here, takes a second, hooks into stealth, and voila, hello world. So you can run the script externally as well as internally in the GUI here. Okay. So now that I've explained that, let's get into some coding here. So the first thing, so we want to make a runebook copier, right? So we have to make a couple of functions first, little helper functions, right? Because as you know, when you first run a script, what do? You ask a user, okay, you know, I have bags set up here. You'll see here, I have a bag of runes, and I have a bag of empty rune books. Well, one empty rune book, but anyway, that's good enough for now, right? So we have a bag of runes and a bag of empty rune books. So what we have to do is create a function that prompts a user to target something and return that target. Okay. Oh, KFC auction info. All right. Anyway, so let's create a function called. We have to make it static because we're in a console app, and the main function has to be static. So there's no instancing in the class of program. Okay. So let's do. We're gonna have it return a container, right? Because we're choosing a bag. We'll call it choose bag. And we'll make a prompt text a parameter. Okay, so let's do console write line prompt text. Okay, now let's load script API again. We have targeting methods here. Target is a static class, so you don't instance it, and it has just static member functions that request a target, wait for a target, target an object. It's very incomplete, like I said, but it has the functions that we need currently. Oh, and if you notice, the return type is an item, the derived from base thing, the item type. Okay, so what we want to do is do something like item result equals target dot request target. And then it has an optional parameter to timeout, right? So we'll do, we'll do infinite timeout. If it's 0, if you specify 0 or you don't specify anything, it's an infinite timeout. Okay. Actually, no. Let's make a timeout. We'll make it 10 seconds, 10,000 milliseconds. So we have 10 seconds to choose a bag. All right. And now, if you notice here, if you do select a timeout, when it reaches a timeout, there's a loop here. While there is no target response, it'll keep going. Once it times out, it'll return the default of item. So for those of you that know C#, that's pretty much null. That is null. Okay. So if it does time out, we have to check for that. We have to check if it returned null or not. So if result is null, we can do console write line invalid selection, and we can just we'll just use the backpack instead. We'll just see if he has stuff in the backpack anyway. So we'll return our own backpack. Now, if you notice, I'm returning the backpack. The backpack is of type container, so we can return it. Now, if it was just an item, we could also just return that as well, because remember, they're both derived. Container is derived from item, so I can return an item if I want. Um, but anyway, I'll return the backpack. Oh, and also we should actually add another check here, right? Because what if he targets something but it's not a container? So because container, because result is an item, it has the member function. Well, the member property is container. So if it's not a container, or if he didn't select anything, if it just timed out, we have an invalid selection, and we'll return the player's backpack instead. If we do have something, then we'll return a new contain. Oh, so we have two different options here. We can do return. We can explicitly cast an item result. If we try to return the result, it won't work, right? Because result is of type item and our return is of type container. We can explicitly cast this because container is derived from item. We can explicitly cast it and return, or container also has a constructor, so we can make a new container, and it has a constructor override that can take any base thing and convert it into a container. Item is derived from base thing, so we can just stick in result, and boom, we can just return it. Beautiful. All right. I'm not going to explain all that. I'm going to code faster and faster with a little bit less explanation as I move along here, so don't worry. Okay. So we have a function for that. I think we're also going to need a function. We'll put this function above for just erroring and exiting, right? So I think we need to do static void. We'll just call it error exit string error text, and we'll do console write line error text. Oops, what am I doing? Error text. Oh my god. Okay, and then we'll do console write line. We'll just do write press any key to suicide, and then we'll do environment.exit 0. Oh, we have to do console read key. All right. So this is just a quick function for erroring and exiting out. And we're probably going to need one more function for actually opening a runebook and returning a gump from it and making sure that that's a sane thing that has sanity checks in it and whatnot. So let's do gump class. Gump class is one of the classes here. Gump class, okay. Gump class. We're going to name it open runebook. Item open runebook. Okay, so what we do is, so now there's two ways of verifying whether or not after we use the item runebook if the gump is open. One way is to record the current number of gumps open, which is gump count, and see if we've raised it by 1. So what we can do is something like next gump count is equal to gump class. Now this is one of the static member properties, gump count plus 1. So that's the next gump count if it succeeds. And then we can make a loop here. And then the other way is to check the last gump opened, check the ID, and see if it matches the ID of our runebook. The gump serial for an opened runebook is the runebook's ID, so it makes it nice and easy when working with gumps, with runebook gumps. Okay, so what we can do is something like this. While gump class.gump count is less than next gump count. Actually, we'll do less than or equal to, because what if the gump is currently open, right? So what if a runebook gump is currently open? Then when we open it, it won't increase at all. Okay, so That doesn't make any sense, actually. Yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there just in case, okay? Actually, what we should do, too, is make a max number of attempts. Attempts equals 0, and then we'll do... we don't want to forever try to open up a rune book, right? Okay, so now, if gump class, if our current gump count is, if we have gumps open, that's what that means. So if we have gumps open, and the last gump is equal to the runebook's ID, if the last gump's ID is equal to the current runebook's ID, then we're good to go. So let's return the last gump. Okay, we'll return the last gump, and then we'll work with that gump from then on in. Okay, and then if not, if any of this fails, we're going to try to open up the runebook. So the only way to open it is to use it, right? Use the object, and again, runebook is of type item, so there uses there. Beautiful. And then we should probably add a wait in. Script is another static class. The only function in it right now is wait. This is just a delay. So, you know, if you try to do too many things, if you try to use too many objects or open too many things or whatever, move too many objects, you'll get the little error saying, oh, you can't do that yet. You have to wait. So let's just do 750. I usually do 1,000, but I just put 1,000 everywhere to be safe, and then you can tweak later. Okay. And then if we reach the max number of attempts and we haven't returned a gump, guess what? We're screwed. So let's just return null for now. You can also do return default gump class, whatever you prefer. Okay. Okay. So those are the helper functions that. So we have a method of choosing a bag, a method of erroring and exiting out, and we have a method of opening a runebook. Okay. Those are quick helper functions that we need. So let's dive right in. So what's the first thing we need to do? The first thing we need to do is ensure that we have our backpack open. Now remember, our self.backpack is a container, and a container is an item, and an item you can use. So we just do that. We don't have to check anything. Just use your backpack. It'll open. Okay. And then we want to use we have to prompt the user. We want to choose the bags of stuff that we have, right? So let's just do container. We'll call it bag of books. We'll choose the bag that contains empty rune books, and equals choose bag. Target your container of rune books. Okay. And then we want to open that up, make sure we can get the inventory of them later. So we'll open it up. And then container bag of runes equals choose bag. Target your container of runes. Okay. Bag of runes. And now we'll open that up. Now, because after this usage, normally I would put a wait right after any use, right? But because there's a prompt here that we're waiting for, there'll be plenty of time for this to register and not go too fast. But here there is no prompt, so let's just do a script.wait. We'll do 500 for now. Okay. So now our next order of business is we have the two bags from the person. Our next order of business is to get, well, we can check if they're containers, actually. That might be a good idea. Yeah, so we'll do if bag of runes if bag of runes is not a container, or bag of runes, actually, no, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. Choose bag takes care of that. If it's not a container, it'll return backpack. So no matter what, we're going to get something good here. Yeah, okay, cool. That takes care of that. I'm sorry. Anyway, so moving on. So after our wait, we'll continue on here. And then the very next thing we need to do is get the inventory of those bags, right? So let's do list. We'll make a list of items. Call it rune books, and then we'll do bag of books. Now, container also has, like I showed you before, an inventory member function, which will return a list of items that are in the bag. Beautiful, right? And then as you can see here, IntelliSense says, okay, well, you have two optional parameters. Find type, the default is FFFF, which means find any type, find all items in the bag. We don't want that though. We only want rune books. And then recursive will recursively search through any embedded bags in the bag, but we don't need that either. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, we need to get the type of a rune book. Well, in order to get that, go to the world. Let's take off all of these. We'll only leave backpack on. And we'll go through here and find, oh, a rune book. Beautiful. The rune book's type is 22C5, right? So that's hex. That's the type we need. And we'll make recursive false. Okay? And let's make a list of items for runes. Bag of runes.inventory. OX. Runes are 1F, 1-4, false. Okay? Now we can check and just do a sanity check here and do some and make sure that we actually have quantity here. So if runebooks.count is equal to 0 or runes.count equals 0, then we can do error exit. Not enough resources, halting. Okay, then make sure that we have items in there. Okay, so now we have our bags full of runes and rune books. So now we need to figure out which, we have to ask the user, hey, which rune book do you want us to clone, right? So let's do, we'll make it a master rune book. And now here I like to do infinite loops. It's probably not the best way, but to keep asking to make sure that he gives us a proper rune book. So let's do console write line. Choose rune book to clone. Okay. And then we'll do master rune book target request target. Okay. Now remember, if we specify 0 here or we specify nothing, it's an infinite wait to request a target. Okay. And now what we can do is if master runebook.type, if the type of the rune book, if the type of the target that was just received is a rune book, then let's break out of this infinite loop. If it wasn't, well, guess what? Not a valid rune book. Try again. Okay? And that loop will keep going until he figures out how to select a rune book. Okay? Okay, so now we have the master rune book. Now we need to know how many copies to make, how many clones, right? So we'll do actually let's do num clones equals 0. And now let's prompt the user for the number of clones, right? So we'll do console write. Actually, we'll do console write, not line, because I want it to show up next to this text. How many clones should I make? Okay. And now we have to do console read line is the way we get input, right? But that reads in a string. So what we can do is use the convert class in 32, which will convert the string into a number. And then we can do, oops, not int. Okay, so the number of clones is equal to whatever they input. Okay. Now, okay, but actually, so what if they enter 0 clones? Or what if, we have to do a sanity check here? Or what if they enter so many clones that we, more clones than the number of rune books we have? So let's do another loop here. We're going to make this a loop. While num clones is less than 1, or the number of clones is greater than the number of rune books we have. Okay? And then we'll add another sanity check here. So if the number of clones is greater than the number of rune books that we have, okay, or if for some reason he has put something less than at least one copy, that's ridiculous, but you can just say like, all right, okay. So now, assuming all goes well, now we have how many rune books to make, right? So now we're gonna start making rune books. Okay, making rune books. Okay. Well, cloning, I guess. Alrighty. So now, um, now we're gonna start making rune books. All right. Sound good? So what we do here is for int make a loop to go through the number of clones we're going to make. Okay, so in order to make a rune book, we have a couple of steps to do, right? Step 1 is open runebook. Step 2 would be to, I guess, loop through recalls, like loop through recalls. Step 3, well, recall each rune. Step 3, we want to mark a rune. Step 4, place marked rune in runebook. Right? Beautiful. Okay, so in order to open runebook, we have our helper function up here. Open runebook, right? And then we're going to do we're going to use our gump class that we saw here before, right? And that's the type that we return. We'll call it, I guess, runebook runebook gump. Open runebook. Okay. Now we need to select okay. So now we've opened the master runebook, right? Well, hopefully anyway. But let's select the runebook out of our list of runebooks and our bag of empty runebooks to use. So we'll do make it an item equals runebooks. We'll take the very first in the list. Now, when you take the first in the list, you have to make sure that you delete it. You have to remove the very first item that you just took. So you save it in runebook, and then you get it out of the list of runebooks so you don't repeat yourself. Okay. And we also should check. So runebook gump. We should check if it actually succeeded. What if it timed out, right? Because up here we have a timeout. Well, attempts, not a timeout, but the number of attempts that it did. So it could have returned a null. And if it is a null, that's an error exit. I mean, we need the master gump. So we'll do error exit. Couldn't open master runebook halting. Okay. And then you want to output something like, well, no, okay. So first, now we need to get the number of. Let me make sure I'm still streaming here. Okay, I am. Okay. Let me. Now we need the number of recall runes. The number of recalls that are inside of that rune book. Okay, so the best way to do this, it's a little bit advanced. I hope you can follow me. C# has something called link. You can see it up here. And it's for queries. It's like a query syntax. It's really, really awesome. So in order to get the number of recall buttons there are in the runebook, Well, let me show you what this looks like actually. Hang on a second. So let's open up a rune book. Okay, here's a rune book. It has one side filled. Okay, now using client DLL, if you go to main here, using this prefix, there are commands that you can type in the client. One of them is called infogump. So you type the prefix, which is the tilde, the reverse apostrophe thing, and then you do infogump. Infogump displays the full info of this gump, of this runebook gump. Okay? Now, so this is very useful when you're working with gumps, obviously. And what we can do here is see, okay, well, um, here's a bunch of data with all the buttons here, but there's also a button list. Here's text. This is very important. So this is how we're going to get the names of the runes that are inside of our master runebook, the one that we're cloning. And then here's a list of our buttons. Okay. So now I just you know, you can look up Chrome's Gump tutorial. It's really really good. Um, I already know that um, these are the recall buttons, the ones with Y14. You're gonna have to decode this for your free shards and all that. Okay, and I want to know first though, how many recall buttons there are. How many recall buttons there are. Okay, which means I have to use this type that's in the Gump class, and I have to separate how many of these recalls there are. Now, this is the text. This is the Clylock actual text. See? That's the field up here. The very last field is Clylock text, and this is that text. Now, if you go back here, there's Clylock ID. Clylock ID. So this ID, okay, Clylock ID 1062722 is equal to that text, recall text. So I'm just basically I want to count how many of these have this Clylock ID on them. Pretty easy, huh? So let's do that. I think I'm wrong actually, but anyway, let's do that anyway. What you can do is, I'm not so great with gumps, but anyway, let's do it anyway. Recall buttons. The number of recall buttons is equal to, and now we do a query, from x in runebookgump.xmf html gump. Remember, this is that type, so we're going to do that. The query, we're going to do the query to that type, to that member property, where Clylock ID, which is a member of this HTML gump that, like we discussed up here, Clylock ID, is equal to 106.2722. We select only that which has it. It's like SQL, you know, like a SQL query. And then we just take the count of that whole query. And that's the total number of recall buttons that we have, okay? But I'm thinking here, because as you can see here, even the empty ones are labeled recall. So I'm not entirely sure now how to get just the number. Ah, that's what we can do. Okay, so we can just reconcile with the number of empty, right? So we have the number of recall. Okay, so this is the total number of recall buttons, okay, that's in the runebook. And then we'll do number of empty runes. We'll do g in runebook gump.text text lines. Now text lines is a function that returns this portion, this. So see text lines here? It returns all of this. But all we need are these. which represent the text of the runes, right? Okay, so what we'll do is, well, nothing else will ever be called empty anyway. So we'll just do where g dot whoop. Actually, I'm doing this wrong. Text. Oh, wait a minute. No, 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 no. Sorry, we have to do this. String text runebook gump. Oh, you know what? I think I can do that. Wait a minute. Okay, so that's the number of text lines that equals empty. Pretty cool, right? So, um, we can do now num recall buttons subtract from itself the number of empty runes that we have. Okay? And that's the number of recall buttons that we need to go through, that we need to peruse through. Okay? Awesome. So, next, okay, so we're going through a loop of the number of clones that we're making. We have the number of recall buttons now. So all we need to do is go through them, right? Oh, first thing, we should probably check if the number of, if we have enough runes, right? If runes count is less than the number of recall buttons, the number of clones that we have to make, right? Then we'll do something like error exit string dot format. We only have runes left, halting. Okay, runes dot count. Okay, so it's a quick sanity check there. Alrighty, cool. So let's do what we were doing before here. What is it called? Runebook gump, right? Yeah, there we go. Text lines. This is so we can rename them later, okay? And then let's let's iterate through excuse me, all of the recall buttons, okay? Okay. Now, so let's do runebook gump. So we want to reset this every time, right? Because after we recall, we have to reopen the runebook again, I think. Anyway, well, let's try it, okay? So let's reopen the runebook, master runebook, right? And then let's wait just to be safe. Okay. And then we need to get the, so now we have to click the right button, right? So we're iterating through all these recall buttons. Now I happen to know already, as I'll show you here. You know what? I'm not entirely sure why this is the case, but the offset for buttons starts at 50 for OSI runebooks. Okay, I don't know why that is. I think I need an explanation from Chrome on that, but anyway, it just does. Okay, so we're gonna do out here. We'll just do like int OSI button. Wow, no, we'll just do button offset equals 50. So the very first, what I'm saying is this. When you load up this runebook and you go to this page, this button, this recall button right here, is the ID of it is 50. This one's 51, 52, 53, and so on. Okay, so we start at 50. All right, so let's calculate our button ID. It's pretty easy. Is button offset plus J. Okay. Um, okay, cool. And then what we need to do is, okay, so we have the button. We need to actually click the button. We have to click the recall. We have to recall to the first location. So what we'll do is Runebook Gump has a click button feature. Oh, and there's button ID, what we just figured out. Oh, this actually returns a boolean if it succeeded. So what you can do is like click result. Okay, and then what we can do is if click result failed, we can write a little thing here saying write line. Our click fail. Actually, we should just error out, right? Yeah, we have to error out. Error exit. Our click failed. WTF. Okay. And then remember we've reset the Runebook Gump every time, so clicking it is no problem. The serial is always the same, but anyway. Okay, and then so we're recalling now, right? Supposedly we're recalling, so we have to wait. Just give it like four seconds to recall away. Okay. So after we recall, then what do? We need to choose. Okay, so just as we chose a rune book here, a new rune book, now we have to choose a rune because we have to mark a rune, right? So we are going to do new rune. We're going to choose the first one again, just like we did above, and just like we did above here. And then when we select the first one out of the list, we need to runes. We need to remove it. Remove the very first thing out of the list. Beautiful. Now we have to cast mark. Oops. Self cast. We're going to cast mark. We're going to wait for the target reticle to come up. Wait for target. Indefinitely this time, right? And then we're going to target the object of our affection. The object is rune, the new rune, right? Of course, we just did a lot. Let's wait a bit. Give it half a second. So supposedly that rune has just been marked, right? So we have to rename it. We have to rename it to whatever the name of the other one was. The name which is somewhere in here. Now, if you look back at our info window, you'll see text lines. So, and it starts here and ends there. So which text, where's the offset? Well, we don't want charges. We don't want max charges. So the text of the runes starts, this is 0, this is 1, it starts at 2. Okay? So what we do is, we're going to do, well, first we have to use the rune, right? So new rune.use, because that's how you double click it to rename a rune. Okay? And then what we want to do is let's go here and let's just see what happens. Let's go to journal. Okay? And let's see what happens when we rename a rune, right? So we double click a rune and it says, please enter a description for this marked object. And then we do test. The etching on this rune has been changed. Okay. So when we use the rune, instead of adding just some arbitrary wait amount, let's wait for this text, this journal text, to pop up. Okay? So what we can do is this. Now, here's where I don't have an implementation to wait for a journal entry here. Not yet, anyway. Maybe I never will. Who knows? So this is where I'm going to start using non-script API functions and start using just raw script.net functions. Okay? So we'll do stealth, go to the stealth namespace now. Well, the stealth class now. And we'll do wait journal line. There's two functions. This waits for a journal in the game, a line from the journal in the game client, excuse me. And this waits for a journal line to show up in Stealth's journal. Okay, but that's not what we need right now. So we want the in-game journal because that's where it just showed up. This is the in-game journal. Okay, so we'll do stealth wait journal line, and let's take a look. Okay, so the start time, we'll do date time now. We want to start right this second. The string that we want is please enter a description for this marked object. Okay, and how long do we want to wait? We'll wait 10 seconds, just give it plenty of time, okay, in case there's lag or whatever. Okay, now just in case that you've just used this, and this has popped up instantaneously, let's add just a safety wait in here, because again, when you use an object, as you can see, if we just keep using an object, you must wait to perform another action. We want to avoid that as best we can. So let's just wait another second. Okay. Now, this is another function that probably will never be in the wrapper, and that is in order to reply. See, so you might think to yourself, okay, so when you double-click this, you type in something, right? Rune name, and the etching has been updated, right? And this is rune name. Okay. Well, if you this is, even though in the client it looks the same as saying like hello world here, you might think that's the same function, right? So you might think, okay, script, I'm sorry, send text to UO, right? You might want to use that function. Well, no, what that'll do is literally send it as a text string above your head so everybody can see it. It sends it as a say. There's a function called console entry Unicode reply. This one's for ANSI, which for other languages, in C# everything's Unicode, so you want to use Unicode here. Okay? And we're going to rename the rune text lines. Remember, the offset is 2, right? The offset is 2 here, so we're going to start at 2. See, this is 0, 1, and 2. Okay? So we start at 2. So we add 2 to the rune we're at, J. Whoa, 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 what the hell was that? Okay. And now we've renamed, that will reply, it's a reply to a console entry request, okay? Which is what renaming a rune is, okay? So, there's some tricky stuff in there that you have to read the API and kind of figure it out. We're going to work on the documentation. It's really not, it's not where it needs to be. Okay, and then we can just add something like, whoops. We change the name to, just in case you want to see what the name is. Okay, let's do another OCD wait here. Okay, so now, which steps? We've opened the rune book, we've recalled to the rune, we've marked the rune, and now we just need to place it in the rune book. Okay, so let's use more standard stealth stuff. No, there's no API stuff built in for this. So we're going to drag the item. Drag item literally means pick it up and have it on your cursor. Okay. Now, this is not API. These are not script API calls. These are stealth API calls. They take raw IDs. They don't take objects, item objects. So you can't use new rune. You have to use the new rune's ID directly. Okay. And then the count is 1. We're only taking 1 rune. There's no pile anyway. It's not a big deal. Drag the item. Script wait. I don't know, 500. And now we want to drop the item. Script drop item. We're going to use new book because we're dropping it. See, move into ID. So the new book that we took up way up there. And then we want to use new book's x coordinate. new books y coordinate, and these are in bags, so you can just use z as 0. Okay. Okay. So as you can see here, it takes a uint, a short, and a short. But um, the item, the items x and y are ints, and remember, C# is strongly typed, so you have to just cast these as shorts, and that should, yep, and that fixes the problem. Okay. So there you have it. Now there's better ways to do this, like what you could do is loop through however many the number of clones that you're making, and mark all the runes at once. Just for this demo, I'm not going to get into it too much. I just want to check if this compiles here. Okay, it compiles perfectly. Beautiful. So let's just go ahead and run it, and let's see what happens. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, so target your container. Oh, you see the target reticle is up there. Target the container of runebooks. I believe that's... Oh, oh, it timed out. Okay, so you know what? Apparently I'm too slow for my own good. So let's just just make it forever. Okay, let's make it so it just it waits forever for me. Okay. Okay, so target your container of runebooks. So that's the green one here. It only has one item. Okay. Okay, it opened it up. Beautiful. Container of runes. Okay. There's my container of runes. And then choose the runebook to clone. So we have this one. I hope that's the full one, isn't it? I hope so. Let's see. And how many clones should I make? Okay, so what if we said 2? Oh, I only have 1 runebooks to clone. See? I only have 1 in my inventory. So that worked. Let's hit 1. Oh yeah, I screwed it up here. Hang on a second. Oh, so what happened was... Oh, actually, that's actually good. These are all empty. What happened to my other runebook? Oh my gosh, I don't even know what I did with my other runebook. I guess I lost it. Shit, that sucks. Okay, well, anyway. What is this? These are really old stuff here. Okay, that's fine. So what we'll do is this. We'll clone this one. But anyway, if you can tell, that worked actually. Oh, there it is. It's right under the other one. Okay, there we go. This one was empty. This one was empty. So let's put that in here, actually. Here's the one I want to clone. Okay, wow. But anyway, if you noticed, the other one was empty. So when it got down to here, the number of, where was that? Oh, right here. The number of empty runes was the total number of recall buttons. So when it went to this loop, it just skipped it right away. It didn't try to do any empty runes. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so let's run it again. Sorry, I know I'm dragging on here. It's been a long thing. Okay, target your container of runebooks. That's the green bag. No problem. And target container of runes. No problem. The runebook to clone is this guy. It's a bunch of Britannian in Britain locations. And let's make 1 clone for now. See how this goes. Okay. Opens up the runebook. Teleports out. Casting mark. Mark that rune if you just saw it turn. Oh, and it okay. It renamed it to Brickbank Glow. And it goes off to the next one. Goes to the next location. Okay. Brickbank High. See that? It renamed it to Brickbank High. Threw it into the runebook. Okay, we'll let it do 1 more here. Enter, boom. Etching changed. Okay, Brit Made Shop. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this out. Let's take a look at our work. There you go. So this was the empty runebook. Okay. This was the one we cloned. The first 3, Brickbank Low, Brickbank High, Brickbank Made Shop. And then, whoops. And then here you go. And just to verify that it actually worked, we'll recall to Britbank again. And boom, we're done. So we just that quickly, we can make a quick little runebook copier. Worked perfectly, no problem. Now I'm a little bit more experienced, so you know it's a little bit easier. It might take you guys longer, but as you get the hang of it, C# is really, really powerful. And I'm going to upload this sample to a public repo that you guys can come look at, and that's it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoyed this tutorial. I'm sorry if I rambled, man. It's midnight right now. It's been a long day, so I hope that that was pretty clear. And then if you have any questions, hop on ScriptUO and ask away. All right. Thanks a lot for watching.